morning. It is a pleasure to be here, especially talking to persons that are producing the material that I'm using. So I'm not producing paper, I'm not inside the technology of paper, but we are using a lot and we want to use even more the product that you are producing and you are innovating for other applications, not only for making paper, for copy, for making photocopies or for us to write, but also to use paper as a functional material for several applications. Also, I would like to thank the invitation to be here. It is a pleasure, and I hope I would like to share with you some of the work that we have been doing in the last years in that area. So just for you to have also an idea about the main topics we have in our laboratory, we work, of course, on paper electronics, but also we are a large group, and we have other research lines in the group. We work a lot on transparent electronics, and also this is quite important nowadays because also 10 years ago we start to using a kind of metal oxides like zinc oxide, the material that is used inside Alli-Boot or Mustela creams, and we are using these materials to make also transistors and electronics. And nowadays, for example, Samsung and all the display industry is replacing the amorphous silicon TFTs that we have in our flat displays, either laptops, mobile phones, or televisions. Instead of using transistors, they are using this type of metal oxides because they are transparent and also because they present superior electrical performances. So we have some patents with Samsung because also we pioneer in the world this type of activity on transparent electronics. On paper electronics, I will talk today about this a little bit. Also, we have a lot of work on electrochemical devices, also on biosensors and microfluidics, and also on solar cells and nanoplasmonics. In fact, our group starts with solar cells. So solar cells is a device that converts solar radiation into electricity. Of course, we start with amorphous silicon, but after 30 years, we exploit more or less all the properties and all the nice things of these materials. And nowadays, what we are doing is not in the area of solar cells is not only to exploit, to try to increase the properties of the material itself, but we are changing a little bit the architecture of the device, the layout of the entire device, working, for example, with the nanoplasmonics in a way that we can increase the solar efficiency by capturing more light into the device. So these are the main areas that we have in our laboratory. So we are located, I'm coming from Nova University. Nova is located in 5 different places. One of the faculties is Faculty of Science and Technology, is located in Caparica, Monte da Caparica. So this is Lisbon, Costa da Caparica is nearby. So this is our campus, and my laboratories of CENIMAT are located here in these 2 buildings, and the material science department is there. But of course we have a huge campus, 30 hectares, and we have here all the engineering, mainly the engineering degrees. So in terms of facilities in our laboratory, we are well equipped. So we work a lot on microelectronics, on nanotechnology. We have 2 clean rooms, 2 laboratories where, since we work with very small things, we need to have a special environment inside the laboratory. Also with all the facilities related to microelectronic processes, mainly thin film processes using physical sputtering and all these type of technologies for thin films. Also, since some years ago, we start to work a lot on more on chemistry side, so we are able to produce nowadays some of the devices that we use, the conventional, that have that we produced with conventional techniques like sputtering, using vacuum gases. Now we can produce the same transistors using just inside the hot and the spinner. We can produce the same devices. And also, since we work with devices, we synthesize the new materials and we apply the materials on the final devices. We need to have several equipment in order to characterize not only the materials that we are producing, but also the devices, because for making a material sometimes it's quite easy, but for making a device with different layers on top of each other, sometimes they don't like each other, and we have the interfaces, and it's quite challenging to make devices, not materials, but especially devices. But we are well equipped. Also, we work a lot with this type of equipments, RF magnetron sputtering, physical techniques. So we produce all the thin films inside these films. Is exactly the type of coatings that we have in our glasses, this anti-reflection coating we have here. We are using the same material, but for electronics, and usually they are produced in this type of machines. Also, with my first advanced grant from ERC, we built the first nanofabrication laboratory inside an university. And in fact, this is not only an electron microscope, it's an electron microscope that for us we can see very small things, we can see very small details. But besides that, we have a focused ion beam and we can manipulate matter. We can deposit, we can etch, so we can nanofabricate. So this is quite important. This is why it is a SEM-FIB equipment. More recently, we acquired also with the support of other ERCs, because we have now in our group 6 ERC grants, XPS equipment that is quite important especially to see interfaces. And since in all these devices we are working with very thin layers, some less than 10 nanometers, the interfaces are playing an important and a crucial role in terms of device performances. So after this small introduction, I will switch now for the talk. And also I'd like to share with you, we have a strategy in our laboratory. And the strategy is based in 2 main pillars. The first one is related to the materials. We use green materials. This is what we use inside our doors, which means abundant non-toxic materials. And since we need to process these materials for making a biosensor, for making a solar cell, or for making a transistor, also in terms of the technologies, we are looking for simple and low energy processes. So these are the 2 main pillars we have in our lab in terms of materials and in terms of processing the materials that we are using. So, alternative electronic is needed. You know why? Because this is some of the things that we are doing today. We are producing a lot of what is called high-tech trash. So all these electronic equipments, it is impossible. Okay, it's not impossible. It is not economically viable to recycle all these electronic components. Maybe this is not the best way to make recycling, and this is what exists now. Also, this is not the best way for waste selection, and also this is our products, or our main electronic waste. And we are not solving this problem today. So, and of course, in a long term, not long, but maybe in a short term, this is not sustainable. And here, it's just in this slide, we have the international electronic waste shipments. And what we are doing is to export all these electronic waste to other parts of the world, like some countries in Africa, to India, and to China. So this is actually what we are doing today. So besides the electronic waste, also we are facing another problem now. is related to the microplastics, the plastic pollution into the oceans. It is already said that if we stay with the same rate that we are using today for putting these plastics into the oceans, by 2050, we will have more plastics into the oceans than fish. And I don't want to eat fish, to eat plastics. But also this is what also we are doing nowadays. And as you know, 5 countries dump more plastics into the oceans than the rest of the world, especially in Asia. And also, I don't know if you know, but we dump around 8 million tons of plastic into the ocean each year. So this is what we are doing. And again, for example, if we compare this with the electronic waste, this is not sustainable. And we need to have alternatives to stop all these type of things. So, what is paper electronics? Sometimes we, the scientists, we are inspired by science fiction, and we like to see movies. Maybe it is a pity that we cannot reduce a little bit the intensity of the lights to see this better, but I guess they need to record. But maybe you recognize this movie. It's Harry Potter. And with the Harry Potter movies, it is possible to have all these images, these videos inside the newspapers, all these type of things. But of course, this is science fiction. But maybe today is not science fiction, is a reality. But just for you it's not working. To show you that sometimes this type of science fiction is quite important for research. Why paper? Cellulose is nature's most common building block, and of course you are the experts in that area, I'm not. And in a bioeconomy and circular economy in which renewable materials are one of the keys to a more sustainable future, maybe cellulose is an active and crucial role. And also, this is a quote from a colleague from Finland, Ronald Osterbacka, and he just published last year this book on green materials for electronics. Also, cellulose is there. And it is mentioned that paper has been a green material for the transfer of information for more than 2,000 years. The discovery of lightweight and flexible plant-based substrate that could be used to store written information must be considered one of the greatest discoveries of humankind. So this is a quote from Professor Osterbacka in Finland. And I agree, I fully agree with him. But also if we take a look about the paper industry, this is more or less what we are facing today in the world. So we are having a shift from north to south, also for a shift from graphic papers to packaging and tissue. This is the reality. And again, we are looking for some emerging markets that are coming up. So the mature markets or the more conventional products are going down a little bit. And also what we are looking is also for an increase related to packaging and tissue paper. And also the graphics papers and all the papers that we are using for newspapers, for books, all these type of products are going down. And cellulose. Now, why we choose cellulose to use as an electronic material? Because we are not only use cellulose as a substrate, like we are using for printing. In fact, cellulose or a paper, an office paper, we are using this substrate because we need to have a physical support for the ink or for the graphite. We are not only using this as a substrate, but also we are exploiting the properties of cellulose as an electronic material. This is different. We are not only using cellulose in a passive way, we are using cellulose in an active way because we are exploiting some particular properties of cellulose to electronic applications. So, cellulose is the most abundant biopolymer, environmentally friendly. It's a material that is flexible and unbreakable, and nowadays we have a lot of flexible electronics everywhere. We are looking for lightweight electronics. Paper has these properties. Is a low-cost material, is the lightest known material, and also for some applications this is quite important. Weight is an important property. The technology is very well established. I don't need, or we don't need to invent how to produce good quality paper. The technology is there, it exists, and even maybe this number is already, this is not updated, but when I went to near Setúbal, the navigator industry there, they produce office paper at a velocity of 100 kilometers per hour, so it's huge. So the technology is there. We don't want to change it. And paper presents good dielectric properties. And this is what we are exploiting in terms of electronic applications. We are exploiting these dielectric or insulating properties. We don't have electric cables made of cellulose, because cellulose is a non-conducting material. So we are exploiting this for electronics, because also for electronics, for example, if I want, and I will show you later, for making a very simple transistor or an integrated circuit or whatever, I just need to have 3 types of materials: conductors, semiconductors, and dielectrics. That's all. Paper is ubiquitous, and this is also important because paper is everywhere. So, for example, if I want to make some product out of paper and to sell it or to try to use it in different places, the paper is there. So the raw material is already there, is everywhere. And at the end, it is recyclable. So these are the main advantages of cellulose that we are looking for not only electronic, but also biosensor applications. For example, and also I used to say, I don't have a plan B, I have a plan D. For example, if we compare different technologies, because what I'm using is cellulose, independently if cellulose is coming from the trees or if it's coming from, for example, some bacteria. If I compare vegetal cellulose with bacterial cellulose, for example, for vegetal cellulose, usually I need to wait between 4 to 5 years to the growing of a tree and to cut the tree and to extract the cellulose from the wood. And for example, if I'm using a vinegar has some bacteria inside, and also I can produce bacterial cellulose between 2 or 3 days. And this is how it looks like. So this bacterial cellulose is produced by this microorganism, is the Acetobacter chilinum, and this is how it looks like. So it is exactly a 3D network of cellulose fibers. The only difference is the scale. In that case, this bacteria, she is producing these fibers at a nanoscale, not at a micro or millimeter scale, as it is in the case of vegetal cellulose. And this is how it looks like, bacterial cellulose. Since the fibers are so small, the final material is transparent because we don't have interaction with the visible light and with the nanofibers. So we used to say we work with the cellulose in a top-down and bottom-up approach. In a top-down is the vegetal cellulose, in a bottom-up is the bacterial cellulose, because I'm building the cellulose, and on the other way, I'm extracting the cellulose from the wood, so it's a top-down. And here I have 2 scanning electron microscopes images of office paper. On the left side is a typical office paper, and here is nanocellulose produced by these Acetobacter bacteria. And they are quite similar. What we have is this 3D network of cellulose fibers. The only difference is that here We have 100 micrometers, and here I have 100 nanometers. So the scale is completely different. And again, almost 100% cellulose, but due to the scale, the properties are completely different. This is exactly what happens, for example, with the gold. Gold at the macro scale is yellow, but for example, if I have a solution of nanoparticles of gold, the solution becomes red, because at the nanoscale, the properties of the same material, they are completely different. And also this is what we are exploiting with nanotechnology. So this is just an example of the structural properties of office paper and vegetal cellulose and bacterial cellulose. Both of them, they present the phases related to cellulose. So in terms of crystallinity, of course, the bacterial cellulose has a higher degree of crystallinity which is normal due to the production process, than the vegetal cellulose. And also in terms, for example, of the optical properties, office paper or vegetal cellulose is opaque, usually white, is not transparent. In the case of bacterial cellulose, this is the transmittance as a function of wavelength. You can see, for example, for a film, a membrane with 40 micrometers, the material is transparent. And also we can exploit this for some other properties, because we are combining in some cases electronics and also transparency. Now I will present you some applications, some results using these cellulose. We will start with the electronic devices. So in 2008, and since the last years, we are facing some trends in terms of e-books, e-papers, all these e-things, where the main idea is to replace a book or something using a cellulose substrate. The idea is to replace this by an electronic equipment. For example, this. The idea is to replace the journal by iPad or something similar. That's why it is e-paper. But since in our case we want to use cellulose for electronic applications, we switch the E from left to right. And we are not working on e-paper, we are working on paper E. So we are the opposite. And also the colors, this is the brand, the colors is green because I belong to Sporting. So in this case, the cellulose for the transistor works like a physical support and also one of the components. So it has both a passive and an active function. And also this is a cross-section of the first paper transistor we built in 2008. And this is very easy. It's like to make a photocopy on both sides. I start with a sheet of paper, and we cover in one side, I deposit a semiconductor, on the other side a gate electrode, and that is like that. So we built, the name of this specific transistor is a field effect transistor. Again, also the materials that we are using for the semiconductors and also for the other materials that I need to use for the entire device are green. They are based on metal oxides. So also here, okay, indium zinc oxide, gallium, indium zinc oxide. So these are the materials that we are using for the other materials. And again, since we start to work with bacterial cellulose recently, we built in the same way a transparent paper transistor. Since in that case the substrate or the membrane is nanocellulose. So this is a high resolution cross section of a paper transistor where you can see I cut the transistor just to see all the layers, how they are inside. And for example, here you can see the scale. This is 200 nanometers. And also, just for you to have an idea of scales, usually I used to say that the nanoscale we are not able to see because they are very small things. But just for us to have a clear picture about what is nano things, for example, if you divide the diameter of a tennis ball by the diameter of the Earth, you have 10 to minus 9, which is nanometer. So tennis ball and the heart. So these are the type of scales that we are talking. So here we have 200 nanometers. And again, the green line here, so this is the cellulose, the cross-section of the cellulose. And here the semiconductor is this very thin line, and you can see that is less than 10 nanometers. So besides using green materials, low-cost materials, also the amount of material that we are using is rather small. So this is how it looks like, the paper transistors. The first one is also conducting paper, so we can deposit some, we can functionalize the surface of the paper and transform the properties of paper. And also, we are not just working on discrete devices, because the transistor itself doesn't work alone. I need to integrate the transistor with resistors, with capacitors. I need to make an integrated circuit, a system. And also here we have some prototypes that we have working with some, they are some prototypes from some European projects, because we had, and we still have European projects within the area of paper electronics. Also a display, different things, sensors, whatever. Also, this is another circuit, a CMOS, is the combination of a P-type semiconductor with a N-type semiconductor, because usually on microelectronics, I need to have two types of semiconductors, P with vacancies and with holes, and N-type with electrons. So besides the two transistors, also we work, and we still work on solar cells, and since we are targeting one of the applications is packaging, smart packaging, we start to make some Tetra Solar, a solar cell out of a Tetra Pak package. Because Tetra Pak has already an aluminum foil, and this aluminum foil is already one of the electrodes that I need for the solar cell. And we built solar cells on Tetra Pak. Of course, the efficiency is not so high, but I don't care, because also the electronics that these powers need to give is small. So I don't want to use this with a huge power. Also for the bacterial cellulose, and also you can see they are flexible. So I can have, for example, usually we have in our roofs these modules of crystalline silicon, these solar panels, but they are not flexible. I need to put like that. So by using these type of devices, I can conform, I can adapt to the shape that I need. And also recently, last year, I guess, it was also possible to produce, for example, graphene. As you know, graphene was the Nobel Prize of Physics in 2010. And it is possible to produce graphene out of wood. So we have a lot of wood, so let's go to produce in a very low-cost way graphene. So other application is bio, and also we are producing this in our laboratory, and also we have already some papers published with graphene. Biosensors. Some years ago, the World Health Organization established some guidelines for developing diagnostic tests adequate for developing countries and resource-poor settings, which are summarized under the acronym ASSURED. And ASSURED means affordable, sensitive, specific, user-friendly, rapid and robust, equipment-free, delivered to those in need. So these are the type of diagnostic tests we need to develop, and they need to have or to fit all these properties. So if we take a look on the biosensors market, also we used to say is a multi-billion market, but 90% of the diagnostic tests are for glucose. Of course, nowadays we also can perform inside the pharmacy or also at home other tests. We can use other diagnostic tests for detecting other biomarkers, and also this is growing. So also these are the main technologies for making these, for example, these microfluidic diagnostic tests. I don't go into detail, but usually these technologies are expensive. We need to use clean room, microelectronic facilities. And again, since we are using paper, why not to use paper for making these low-cost diagnostic tests for glucose, for cholesterol, for uric acid, whatever. This was not invented by us. Also, it was in 2008 invented by Professor George Whitesides at Harvard University. And also this is, I used to say this is a Colomb egg. He is using a Xerox printer. Nowadays, the Xerox printers, they have instead, the ink is wax. We print wax on top of a filter paper because in that case I need to have some porosity because I'm using liquids and I need to have porosity. After printing the wax into the printer, I put the paper on top of a hot plate. The wax melts, diffuses along the thickness of the paper, and we will create hydrophobic barriers inside the paper. So paper is hydrophilic and wax is hydrophobic. So I can create these type of barriers and build, for example, glucose sensors. So this is a real example of a lab on test. This is just paper because the idea is to make colorimetric tests. We don't need to use electronic equipment. We will develop, and this is also already done in my faculty with the informatics department, app for an application for a smartphone, and having all these machine learning and all these calibration curves, we just take a picture of the color developed, and since we have all the calibration curves, I can, by the picture also, I can see what is exactly the concentration or the amount of glucose or other biomarker. And this is a real example for glucose. It's there. So the solution of glucose is put in here. So this part has wax. This is why the liquid is not spreading all over the area. It's just going through this channel that was defined. The wax melts through the thickness. I have here some enzymes for the glucose. I have a color development, and also the intensity of the color depends on the concentration of glucose, and this is very easy. And at the end, I just burn the diagnostic test. I don't have plastics, and also by burning, I don't have problems of contamination. So this is how they look like. So I can print several times, and I can use even the wax for the encapsulation of the device. And that's all. So in terms of the main key areas of these technologies, this is what we are targeting: smart packaging and smart labels. In our opinion, these are the first ones, so they are coming. Also here you have some examples, some prototypes. But in order to reach these, it's not only our part, also this is a multidisciplinary work. We need to develop different types of sensors, also the type of communication we need to use, if it is Bluetooth, if it is near-field communication or RFID, also the circuits and logics, the electronics, also the power, because electronics, they need to have some power, batteries or printed batteries also on paper, and also the type of interaction we need to have it, if it is audio or visual, interaction. And of course, this is quite important, not only for these things, for smart packages, but also, for example, for the Internet of Things. It is not really in place now because the conventional electronics is relatively expensive to use, to spread it over all a bottle of milk or a package of butter. So, challenges, opportunities. Of course, in terms of healthcare, because we are staying more time, and this is good. I want to live more years, but especially with the quality of life, and this is good. For water, food, and the Internet of Things. And also, we can use paper for disruptive applications, or also we can use paper and to add more functions to already existing products. So we have this duality in terms of the use of cellulose for all these type of applications. So this is our team. We are a large group, and also we used to say that if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And we prefer to go together because, of course, we prefer to go far, not fast. Of course, we just don't need motivated persons, and as you can see, they are quite happy, and I'm sure they are. But also we need some heroes. It's impossible to survive without heroes, and I would like to acknowledge the funding from our national, from Portugal, either from FCT and also from PT 2020, even in at a small scale, because we are in Lisbon region and we don't have access to other funds, but especially to European projects. As I mentioned, we have already a huge success rate in terms of European projects, and especially to ERC grants, because the ERC grants, they are millions of euros just for one person. So usually for the other European projects, we have several partners, and we need to share these 3 millions with 6 or 8 partners. With the ERCs, all the millions are for the lab, so we don't need to share it. But of course, it is also quite important to have all these European projects, not only for the euros, because you can talk. I'm only talking about money, but also it's quite important the networking and to see what our colleagues are doing, and also it's quite important for them to see what we are doing, because sometimes, for example, when we start the first work with Samsung, they come to Portugal. Before signing the contract, they visit us. And when they, in Korea, when they talk to the colleagues and they told them, okay, we are going to Portugal. And, okay, you are in holidays, you are going to Portugal. No, we are to Portugal to see transistors. So also this is quite important for us to have all these network along the world, because also in some areas we are making quite good research and science in Portugal, and science is global. So, and thank you for your kind of attention.
Well, thank you, Elvira,
Okay.
for your
I'm available for questions or
interesting
comments.
talk. Elvira will be glad to answer to some questions from the audience. It seems everyone is satisfied.
Yes.
Dmitry,
There is
shake
one
the
here.
audience.
Thank you for the nice presentation. Dmitry Vtugin from University of Aveiro. I have just one question. When you use the cellulose layer in the field transistor, you use it like a dielectric only, or like a, let's say, regulating field also?
The first transistors we performed, it was just using office paper, even without any type of
just
treatment.
Like support, like any plastic?
Of course, nowadays we are able to treat the surface, and we are implementing. Also, we are working with Raiz, with Navigator.
Ion gels also, yes?
And we are exploiting, and because the paper that we started using was not optimized for making transistors.
Okay.
But even at the beginning they work, and now we are optimizing, and of course, especially roughness, and we are getting much better results.
Thank you very much.
Carlos Braz.
Good morning, Carlos Braz from Navigator Stool. How close are these kind of applications to the industrial scale?
Okay, I need to ask to you. To you, I'm from the university. Now, of course, we still not have these devices or these products commercially available. But for example, we just established now, we are not just finalizing a new association, is a collaborative laboratory in the area of paper. It's an association between my university, Raiz, Navigator, also a biolab, also the municipality of Almada, and all together we build this lab just to make prototypes, small series of, I forgot, the coordinator is Imprensa Nacional Casa da Moeda, because since in the past, for example, Imprensa Nacional Casa da Moeda, they spend already in 3 years with us 1 million euros in direct contracts, because they want to have this type of technology for their products. So within this collaborative laboratory, they are coordinating, and all together, now we want to transfer the knowledge, or to transform knowledge into innovation and into products, and also to avoid this gap sometimes that we have between universities, that we are thinking things completely outside, and the industry. So I guess not yet available, commercially available, but we are in the line. For example, now also we have another company, because these diagnostic tests are quite interesting, especially for pharmaceutical industry and because it's a real need. And I didn't mention here, but for example, the tests that we are using for glucose, of course, they are not expensive because we will pay the rest. It is not expensive for the person, for the patient, but this is supported by the state. They have an enzyme, and also the support is plastic, and also you have the electronic equipment and all this stuff. We developed the same device, okay, a little bit different, but on paper, and we don't need to use enzymes, because the enzyme is costly. So we are just using a solution based on gold nanoparticles, and we are developing these sensors for glucose, cholesterol, and uric acid. And we have a company also dealing with this, and now we are making the real tests with patients, because we need to validate, of course. And we have a huge company in England that is quite interested in this type of applications. So I guess, and this is the future.
Elvira, I think I have $1 billion question for you.
But I don't have 1 billion.
Following the comment from Carlos Braz. We have in Portugal, I think, one of the best groups on flexible electronics and paper-based electronics. It's your group. We have in Portugal I think, one of the most dynamic industries, which is paper industry, innovative and very dynamic. What is missing to fill the bridge? And this week we were in Lisbon in Singularity University, and we were speaking about exponential growth based on these new high technologies, and paper could be one of let's say, one of the elements of this exponential growth. Do you think Portugal, with these conditions, with brilliant, vibrant industry and brilliant research groups, could be an example at world level of this exponential growth based on paper electronics?
It is one of my dreams to establish a Portuguese thing or a Portuguese product out of something that we have in Portugal. It was not an easy way to reach also Navigator and in the past, but now, okay, we are working together. But I guess if we don't have, because also this is not my role. I'm at university, I'm making all this knowledge, and my role is to sell the knowledge to the industry in the form of projects, patents, whatever. But if there is not a company, a Portuguese or not, investing or trying to see if it is possible to exploit this, maybe someone, because as I mentioned, we have now a huge company in England related to the diagnostic tests, and they want to invest a lot on this product, not on the other parts, on smart packaging, because even nowadays, for example, if we look for food, for packaging, and as you see, the trend is to replace plastics, because plastics, paper has more than 2,000 years and is not polluting, nothing. Is from renewable origin, is biodegradable, and plastics, they have 70 years, 70. And look the type of pollution we have already with this recent material. So also in my idea, one of the trends is to replace the majority of the plastic packages by cellulose-based packages, especially for food. And for example, for food, nowadays what we have, for example, I purchase a yogurt or something with food. What they have, a date, if it is valid or not. So before this day, I can eat it. After this date, I cannot. But we are sure of that, even before this is okay or not. So in the future, we will not use this type of things. We need to have sensors at a low cost, but also this depends on the scale. If I'm producing 10 or 100 billions, the price is completely different. It's just a problem of scale. So the trend is that. So the trend is in this direction. And I guess even for the paper industry, we have here a good and a huge opportunity to invest in this type of things. Not, tissue paper, of course, because we still need it, but maybe office paper and other types of paper, packaging industry, but with other functionalities, not just a passive box or a beautiful box for more things. Not only food, but for example, for the medicaments. For example, in Finland, this is already used. I have some electronics in some expensive medicaments, and if the patients, especially old persons, if the person doesn't take the pill at that time, I have a sign or a message to the mobile phone, you need to take the pill. And these already exist, so we have a lot of opportunities. For you, more than for me, because I'm making papers.
I should say for both. Okay. Short question.
Very short. So, believing on these theses of exponential growth, which I believe, but when do you think it's going to be like the turning point in these technologies? They are go everywhere, and
I cannot tell because nowadays everything
you don't
is
have
so...
a feeling of that still.
Eu tenho alguma intuição, mas não a esse nível. But nowadays everything is so fast because even
Mas então pondo a pergunta de outra maneira, porque é que ainda não aconteceu?
I não sei, se calhar due to the costs or due to some às vezes receio, não sei.
You think the economy is a little bit septic when it analyzes these kind of technologies because they are too disruptive? That could be a theory.
Sometimes this is a problem because when we are making, for example, why in the case of transparent electronics, also we started this more or less in the world simultaneously with the Japanese and an American group. It is already done. We have patents with Samsung, and this technology is already available because it was not so disruptive. So it was a huge optimization, but the transistor, it was not invented. The material was substituted to a better one. In the case of the paper transistor, it's completely new. And sometimes when we have something completely, now I'm using this where? Maybe sometimes this is more difficult.
Thank you.
But cellulose has a lot of potential, a lot.
I believe the time is now, right now, this point. Okay, so let me thank again Elvira for your kind presentation.
Okay, thank you. sorry, I forget. I have a very short video, just with 2 minutes, because we have been selected for the short list with 3 inventions in 2016 by the European Patent Office. And they perform a very nice video that I would like to show you. It's just 2 minutes, but it's very well done. Let me see if I... Como é que ficou o ecrã todo? Welcome to Universidade Nova de Lisboa in Portugal. Here is where we create the future and turn the page. We are creating a new era of electronic materials, green electronics. With conventional electronics, we are facing a huge problem since we are producing electronic waste and we are exporting this problem to other parts of the earth.
Either for producing or for recycling silicon, we have to use a very high temperature, above 1000 degrees.
We invent a paper transistor made with and on paper.
My first reaction was, it will not work.
I like very much to use already available materials, already available technologies, combine them, but for completely different application.
With this piece of regular photocopy paper, we can make semiconductors for low-cost electronic applications.
We change the E from the left to the right because it's paper E, because you are not substituting paper by an electronic component. No, we are using paper for an electronic application.
We have a sustainable material, ecological product, fully recyclable, and can be processed at low temperatures. Those are things that we cannot do it with silicon. With paper, it's very simple.
We start with a sheet of paper and we copy on both sides 2 different materials, a conductor and a semiconductor. That's it. Of course, we don't want to replace a conventional microprocessor, but also we can use paper for other applications.
There are other type of applications that only our imagination in the future can save.
My work is a passion, and I love the work I'm doing and also in the way I'm doing.